Hello, this is Jamie of the Druid Diaries. I'm going to share a pretty serious part of my week with you right now. An old friend of our family passed away this week. I heard about it via her daughter, who I've known for even longer than I knew her. Someone I do cherish, having known for many, many years. I cherish that entire family, though I don't know all the individuals in the family. I have had the privilege of knowing 3 generations of the women of that family. My friend went to residential school, like many people that I know and have met over the years. She was a resilient spirit. And though she carried a lot of the wounds of her circumstances, and I don't know what to say, but I know I want to tell you something that was important to her. She believed in us women, all women. Of course, she had a very special place for other Indigenous women. That was very important to her, and I in no way meaning to take away from that. However, she did believe in the women of the world. And she wanted all of us to awaken to the goddess within us. Mary Lou did the most lovely antler carvings, and most of what she did was small works, and many of them had Indigenous themes. Very powerful, very beautiful, very deeply meaningful. But one of the things that she would do is to carve out images of these beautiful little Venus mother goddesses from the Paleolithic period in Europe. This is also connecting to part of her heritage as well. It is all of creation that is part of our collective heritage as well. The global history is all encompassing. It is a history that belongs to all of us, and this does not contradict, to my mind, the individual cultural histories around the world. Just as each of us as human beings has individuality, we also possess universality when it comes to our human experience. These are not in any way contradictions. There is a oneness amongst us, just as true and real as the things that separate us, maybe more so. And that is not to say that we should neglect either one of those truths. They are important truths, both equally important. So I found this to be a very special thing about my friend, that she acknowledged both these things so beautifully within her artworks, within her beautiful pendants. I believe everyone who was either gifted or purchased one of these works from her understood how special they were. I want to share with you that she believed that women were powerful, amazing beings, and that each of us has something amazing to offer in this life. She wanted us to all bloom and blossom, for our gifts to be nourished, for us to celebrate and respect those gifts in one another, not only for our children, but for ourselves and for all of us. She believed in healing, in light, and in love, and what she couldn't heal within her own life, she ached to heal. But life is hard, and we must celebrate the triumphs and comfort one another over those sorrows we cannot change. It is what it is, and we all do our best. And I think people like my friend, the fact that it was still so important, even later in life, that she somehow managed to address those issues, to find peace within herself, to make peace overall. It shows how much it really did matter. And sometimes things are just beyond our control. And we deal with our circumstances the best way that we can. I think it's really important to reflect upon the ups and downs of our lives, but not to fall victim to those things we may consider as failures. And instead, to take that energy and use it to do good, and use it to move forward. The deeds that matter most are the ones in the moment. We cannot, I know this is corny, but it's a very true wisdom, and it's not going to become less true at any time. And that is, we cannot change the past. We can only change what we're doing in the moment. And what we do in the moment is the predictor for the future. So, to take this and contextualize it with my Druidic path, I will say that I find that some of the work done in Druidry around death and grief and ritual to do with death, the liturgies and prayers that I've been looking at, they are very sound. I'm not saying they're necessarily a fit for everything, for everyone, but they're very thoughtfully constructed. I use a great deal of the herb thyme as smudges. It also makes a very beautiful tea. I would call that a tonic tea. And also, if anyone's going to run out and start making thyme tea, please check and make sure you don't have an allergy. And also do a little bit of research, because I'm not an herbalist and I don't know who might be watching this and what their individual situations might be. So I always put a caveat there. Consult someone who can meet with you and prescribe properly. I will say this too, that I, this week, found my Bridget's cross. It's, as you can see, the 4-pointed one. It had disappeared on me. This is the one that I relate most strongly to. Pardon me, sip of tea here with my Santa Claus. No, not Santa Claus, snowman. Sorry, different one. Oh, all gone. Oh well, that's okay. I think I'm okay for a few more minutes. I think it was just meant to be that I find that after misplacing it. And I have been thinking a great deal about Bridget. She is a goddess that I really feel very connected to. Not only in the spring or in the winter months, but just all year round. One of my first experiences with learning more formally about Bridget was Imolk. And I'm just trying to remember who it was I was listening to online. I actually think this was, it's possibly on YouTube somewhere, but a beautiful, beautiful sage way of thinking about Bridget is that during times of gestation over the winter, of the really dark, cold months, you know, all the different creatures that are carrying life within their wombs, including human beings, they have a very rough time. And this actually relates a little bit to what I was talking about in my just previous to this video, was about the coming darkness. We're right now, since Samhain, that last quarter, and into the new moon, now being energy-wise transported into the winter solstice. I know that sounds a little strange, but as I'm doing my studies, I'm learning more about how these events are calculated and their qualities, and it's making a lot of sense to me. It's making a lot more sense to me now than it did before, when I thought, okay, the light half of the year, the dark half of the year, that's got to be the equinoxes. That makes perfect sense to me. I didn't really see how the cross quarters were involved in that with Samhain and Imolk. Now I'm starting to understand better, and I want to learn more, and I want to become more sensitive to those truths. But I digress a little bit. Yet all this is related. So Bridget comforts those and assists with those pregnancies, whether it's, cows or humans or other animals. She's that goddess of fertility, as well as many other things, and not all pregnancies make it, and there are miscarriages, and there are stillborn births, and my mother experienced the stillborn birth of my sister, who would have been my little sister, and that hurt her for all the rest of her life, and it was a grief that I experienced in a very delayed way in my 20s. So it's really important, the role of a goddess like Bridget, a fire bearer, a sun deity. And for me, this, although some may be more drawn to the triple image here of this beautiful symbol, the 4-pointed one is the one I'm drawn to, because for me it's also a symbol of the sun, and her as a fire bearer and a healer and a bringer of hope and life. So I may be getting lost a little bit here, I apologize, but so Samhain, this dominant idea and reality of coming into a very difficult time of the year where food can become scarce and people die, animals die, and death could be all around. And here at Samhain, we're mourning and honoring the dead and preparing for the harsh winter to get through all that. And there's a lot of divination that was done at that time of the year as well, because people were, thinking of survival and trying to prepare for the worst, hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. Beautiful saying, and helpful, actually. So here my friend has passed away. And I think of the darkness, and I think then of the cave, the bear in the cave, sleeping in the cave. And the bear was important to her, along with other animals. She felt every animal had a human spirit, and every human had an animal spirit. That was her teaching. That was her belief. So I'm thinking of the bear in the cave, and that bear becomes a womb. And then if all goes well, that womb gives birth to life again. And here I found my Bridget's cross. Just a short while before I heard of my friend's passing away. In fact, it may even have been on the day she passed. I'm not sure, and I don't really need to know that. But, so, I'm glad to be able to share with you Mary Lou's message to all women all around the world. It's one I also believe in too, but I would phrase it differently. But I think it's one that was important to share, to honor her, but also to continue on her message and her encouragement of all of us women. We are sisters. And regardless of gender variations within humanity, it's okay to say that. It's okay to feel that. And it really is beautiful. And within that greater circle, we have many circles. Within all this universality, there is also individuality. And I hope that as human beings we can learn to celebrate those two truths, because they are both true, though they may appear opposite at the same time. Many things in life are like that, and that's why it's important to learn that those are not contradictions, and that there are gray areas in between. A lot of people skip over that because it's too hard. They're too tired. They're in a rush to survive. They don't want to think. But I think Druids need to think. I think that's something that's essential to Druidry, is that we think, that we contemplate, that we consider the gray areas, the difficult truths. That's a big part of Druidry. And we start with ourselves. Is there reincarnation? My friend believed in that. But for me, what I think, what I feel, I'll save for another day in that regard. But I will say that within Druidry, many people believe many things. There's no really core absolute around this idea that there is an afterlife. Though there are some things that lead to discussion about that some would say are very Druidic or that fall into the old Celtic beliefs. And I would say that they do lean towards the belief in reincarnation. So I'm grateful that this very meaningful Bridget's Cross came back into my life just at the time that it did. Thank you. Gratitude. And I'm grateful for the friendship that I have had with my friend, Mary Lou. I am sad that we didn't get that visit in, but I think it was a sign, a reminder that despite the rushing in our daily lives, that the stresses that can detract from relationships, that we both still cared about one another. Blessings to all of you. Appreciate one another.